Again, welcome everyone to Now What and to Mycelial Approaches to Transformative Collaboration, the continuation of the session that Grant and Zaira and Joman and I organized for the Evolve 2021 conference that happened last week, October 20th. So Now What is a kind of an open space that lasts for multiple weeks. This edition started this past Monday and is going through November 15th. So it's about 4 weeks long. And it's a kind of open space for members that come together to host it as a collective. And any of us who are part of the collective, and you too could join the collective if you want. Some of us here are or have been in the collective, Uri and Dita, Francois. And if you are, you can put anything on the calendar. And a lot of what we've evolved into are what we call engagement streams, saying, okay, we're gathering for a period of weeks. So what can we do as a kind of a journey over that time to get beyond just the pattern of, here's a meeting and whatever happens in that meeting. And if you miss the meeting, you miss the whole thing. It's also a place to prototype and try stuff out. And many people have launched things out of this. So whatever we do within our mycelial approaches engagement stream could evolve into something more as well. And one thing that might help is to just visualize this. So this is our document, but here's our social systems map. And these are the folks that have added themselves to the map to be part of the current edition. You can see that this is the 7th one, so we could see lots more people. This is the main map view, and we can go over here to partners, engagement streams, and home groups. And this is giving us a bit of a picture of what's emerging so far. It's not complete, but the blue items are different engagement streams. Green are organizational or network partners. And then you've got people on here, and we have something else called home groups. And here we are. Mycelial approaches to transformative collaboration, and you can use this little focus button and just zoom in. So far on the map, all we have recorded are the 4 hosts. You could click on any one of us and see more about us too. And it's red lines because we're in a leadership role. But what I'd love to see is sort of this being a little mycelium that grows. So if you're on this call today, I'd love for you to put yourself on the map, and then there's a simple way to show that you were a part of this, or I can actually do that. Sometimes I just go in and add the data. But what else do I want to say? Let me get back to my agenda. Yeah, so we're launching into this process, and the idea over what's possible over these 3 weeks and beyond is that everyone is invited to offer an invitation to say, within this larger question of what can we learn together, what's something that you would love to do, explore, play with, talk about over the next 3 weeks with at least one other person. Maybe that's all that answers. Maybe nobody answers and you just do it yourself. Open space style. If no one comes to your session, sometimes that's actually what you needed, was to just reflect for yourself. But if 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 people showed up, or maybe 300, who knows, right? Mycelium sometimes channels enormous resources. And what would you love to do? That's sort of the calling question at this stage. And we've been asking that. We asked it of ourselves and to the participants in the Evolve 2021 session. So we actually do have a spreadsheet where we've been compiling those. And in the notes, there's a link to that where it says invitations. And if you go to that spreadsheet, the link to add to it is also there with a little Google form. So we have some invitations that have already been at least articulated to some degree. And anyone who's here or is listening to this is also invited to invite, and then see what happens. And the idea is that we have these Friday calls, but really it's also up to you as the inviter to say, well, what do you want? Maybe you want people to write with you, and you get on a Google Doc and just play whenever you want, or maybe you have a conversation you want to invite people to have in person with their friends and then come back and talk. I mean, it's really up to you, right? We live in a world where we have incredible capacities to do stuff with one another if we want to. And all of us are learning different ways that we like to do that. So don't feel like you're boxed into these Friday sessions. These are more a place where our invitations get re-energized. And we'll see what happens in the other three in terms of sort of doing actual work on them. But today our focus is just to surface those more fully, and energize them, bring them to life. So I think that's really all I need to say before we go into a round, but maybe people have some clarifying questions about that. Yeah, Adita?
Yes, if I wasn't in the Evolve conference,
Mhm.
I would love to be. If would it be would it make sense if I fill out that form? And if so, could you send me the link, or I could
Yeah.
fill it directly in the spreadsheet? I don't care.
If you follow the link here, I'll just open it up, share my screen so you can see how this works. So here's where we've been collecting the invitations, and right here gets you to the form.
Ah, great. Ah, that part I didn't.
I'll drop all of this
Thank
into the
you.
chat. Yep. And so you can see it's got your name. If you want your email to show up here, actually, if you don't, you should tell me as you're hitting submit, because I'll block it out or delete it. But it's probably, yeah, or I'll submit it for you, something like that. You can show whose invitations you want to follow up on. So if you've already put one on here, there's some possibilities for that. And then there's a brief description that's there. And yeah, any other? Richard, welcome.
Hey there. Sorry that I'm late.
Traffic, huh?
Yeah, even in Germany on the Autobahn.
Oh, nice. Well, there's the link to the spreadsheet again. And let's see, our agenda doc is over here, Richard. So Richard was at the conference. And yeah, absolutely. There's no expectation that this is for people who were at the conference, of course, because Mary, Madeline, Adita, Uri, none of you were there. And that was, I think that's also sort of a mycelial thing to say, this thing grows and it's alive, and it's not just about this moment in time, maybe. Are we ready to do a round on invitation? So we've got, I want to leave a few minutes to close. Yeah, here's our notes doc, Richard. That in for you. And so not everyone may have an invitation at this point. It's fine if you don't. It's fine if you want to just think out loud about what it might be. I think it's really helpful if your invitation, includes a bit about what inspires you. The spreadsheet is view only, that's correct, because you use the form to add to it, Francois. You're not the only one that's been hasn't caught that. Yeah, why it's inspiring to you and what you would like to ask of people if they want to play with you. Be bold, or just say, look, this, you're not, if somebody says yes, you want their yes to really be an exciting yes, right? And so you don't have to do that, but that's a model we follow here and now quite a bit coming out of the 6 conversations process. So with that, I think we can just go popcorn style, just each speak once. Given our timing, let's do this for about 18 minutes. So that's like what, 2-3 minutes a person. Well, there's 9 of us. That's 2 minutes a person. I'll set a little timer. If the gong starts, finish your sentence, wrap up your thought. But let's try to leave enough room for everybody and recognize that this is just the beginning of your putting out your invitation as well, right? And so however else you want to extend that, we've got a list of people that are interested in this, that actually surprisingly large. There were people that didn't show up on this call that I didn't even know. So yeah, let's, the floor is open. What's your invitation or your thought about one?
I can go.
Please.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm Madeline, and I live in Massachusetts, so I'm about an hour north of Bend. And the invitation that just occurred to me is I am in training to be a certified guide to do nature therapy walks and experiences, and I can do one virtually. So I just am filling out my form to do, it takes about 2 hours, and I would be doing a series of invitations where you would be sort of sent outside, or if you're indoors, you can relate to another being like a plant or a pet or another person in the room or your home. And then we come back together and gather and do a very brief sharing of what we're noticing. So it's very sense-based, it's very simple, but very powerful. I've done many walks, I've led some, I've been guided by many people. And the sort of tagline of this training is that the forest is the therapist and the guide opens the door. So like, I am not a therapist, but I just help people remember that very deep part of ourselves through these experiences. So I'm excited to do that.
And I'm taking some notes on the Google Doc here if anyone wants to help me do that. That would be lovely. And who wants to go next?
Okay, I can go. I don't know how much time I can stay. But also, I don't really know. But initially, as you started, I thought about the research of archetypes of money and embodiment that I'm engaged with several groups, and inviting people to explore the metaphors, the archetypes that lie in our relationship. So that I think mycelium is also in that context a metaphor that we are connecting with. So maybe this is something, I don't know if this something for this space or people interested in some other space. I also wanted to share that this specific coming week, we've been very engaged with the COP26 and offering on the Now What calendar a journey to now, which kind of combines this giving voice to the earth in this and the future in the conversation. And it's co-created with several members of Now What, and hopefully with you as well. And it's iterating the future present government system that listens and gives voice to the earth and the future. So we are time travelers, bringing that wisdom of taking decisions while voicing the earth and the future. So that's the invitation. It's called the Journey to Now. That's starting. We're having a rehearsal on Sunday. We have 2 meetings to accommodate more time zones. So one in the European morning and one in the European evening time. So that's more. Yeah, this is the 2 invitation. One is more general. I don't have where to land it yet, and the one is more specific. That's 6-5, and being in silence.
Beautiful. Thank you, Uri. Syra and Grant, you're also invited, of course, to name your invitations here.
I feel like I already gave my invitation, but I can repeat the request to all of you how this mycelial approach could potentially assist the work that you do, how this perspective adds value how we could potentially apply it. And I think Uri already gave a great example. So I repeat that invitation. I don't have a specific process in mind, so that could maybe something we can come up with during these sessions.
Yeah, I think that I also extended the invitation in my introduction, and it's on the Excel sheet as well. So for those who are just listening to a recording and not looking at an Excel sheet, I'll just repeat what's on there. And that I'm looking at what role leadership plays in this massive transition. And it's looking at the consequences of what I'm calling rewilding leadership. So getting it more in tune with nature based instead of separation, acting more as a pilgrim than a hero, and understanding the tensions between this urgent need for action, which I feel, which we're given a certain amount of time to avoid tipping points. There are others who say we've already passed it. And the need to work with various temporal rhythms, which are more natural. So this mycelial approach seems to be, typifies regeneration. On the other hand, we have a sense of urgency pushing us to action. And that's the field of tension, which I'd love to explore.
Tita.
Yeah, something that is very alive for me recently is ways of feeling, and also recognizing how we relate to regenerative approaches to anything. And there is framework that I have been exploring with Didi Pershaus, who has a lot of experience on this. And I would love to have a session exploring those frameworks, how we need to be dynamic in how we relate to any other system, from extractive, because we need sometimes resources, to regenerative, and how there are some practices that have helped me personally feel and be aware of at what level I am in any moment. So I would love to just introduce that framework and allow people to explore it in some way.
I didn't catch the name of the person you said who has been developing these frameworks.
Didi Pershaus, I can write it in there.
I'll let you do that. I'll speak to mine. This is what I put into the spreadsheet. The dialogue for transformative collaboration is a kind of mushroom that emerges from the mycelium of people and organizations, as well as questions, stories, ideas, and opinions. And over these weeks of Now What and beyond, I'm looking to work with a group of people who want to engage in dialogue and social systems mapping, the stuff that you saw me sharing with the Now What network map being an example, in order to generate new conversations. And that's a pattern I've been interested in for a long time, dialogue as a key tool for systemic transformation. And I've been looking for ways to use our other virtual capacities to enhance the kinds of conversations that we have, to help us organize and understand, where there is interest, where there's energy, where there's tensions, where there's conflict. And this mapping tool is suddenly, like, I've been playing with it for a while more as like, well, let's just map people and organizations, because that's kind of the social context it evolved into. But it's what if we also map ideas and stories and these things and our opinions about them and how important we think they are, and use that as a way to find the next set of conversations and who wants to be in them. So I've got a context for this through another Now What engagement stream on capitalism and post-capitalism, where we're exploring this question: how can we support the global movement to transition to an economic paradigm that serves the well-being of people and planet? And on November 15th, there's a conversation about that with the economist Emily Kawano, who Madeline knows, part of that's through a bioregional initiative we're both a part of. And that's sort of the catalyst for doing this mapping. But we're going to map before that. We're going to map what happens in the conversation. We're going to map stuff after that and see what new conversations emerge as a way of playing with this idea of a mycelial approach to things. So that's my invite. Come add things to the map, come to the conversation, help make sense of what's on the map. Those are going to be the kinds of activities.
I have a practical question, Ben. What's the time frame we set again for this session? When are we going to end today?
It's an hour-long session. We're ending in a few minutes.
Okay.
If people want to linger beyond that, that's certainly possible. We can keep the room open. I have, well, I could probably push back the call with my mom a few minutes too. She's flexible, but that's my regular Friday morning thing. Grant's like, no, don't do that. Let's see. We don't have to hear from everyone. Richard, I know you've got an invite. Francois, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm not sure that I'm clear that I have an invite, to be honest, but maybe I'll express what's on my mind, and maybe you can help me formulate that the invite. And fundamentally, I mean, it was mentioned before that with the climate crisis and everything else going on, we don't have much time left to change him, to transform society, to do all the things that need to happen in order for us to implicitly to survive or whatever. And so when we say things like that, we tend to think, most people tend to think, okay, so we need to get the leaders. We need to get the leaders to do things. We need to get the leaders to arrange things. So, and we often have a lot of people, not necessarily we here, but a lot of people have this automatic response of focusing on the leaders. And what I've learned from complexity theory, for example, the more you leave things to leaders or to managers or whatever, the more they mess things up. Because there is another life living that's not controllable. And so my question is, so it's not is how do we unfocus away from the leaders and more to, or away from leadership, in terms of leadership, away from the leader part of the leadership and more on the ship, which is us, everybody. Okay, yeah, okay. So I've lost my thread now.
We focus on all of us and less on the leaders.
Yeah, I know I said that, but now I've lost where this was leading to. It's evaporated. Sorry.
No worries. That's, this is just the start of this phase. So if it's important, it will come back.
Oh yeah, words. I do remember. I say two words because it's connected to the mycelium. Because the mycelium has this wonderful property of being able to resist being controlled. And so, what is it from that we can learn in terms of reforming our view of view of leadership or view of transformation? It doesn't have to be on leadership. That was just an example. Anyway, I'll stop there.
Yeah, thank you. Richard, Mary.
I just wrote probably one sentence that was very general, but a few days ago, I was asked to give a presentation on connection to nature to a UC Berkeley Wellness Group. And I ended up starting, it was very layered, starting with with us as human beings. We are nature with each other. And then going out to, our yard, our neighborhood, the urban picture of connection to nature and children's rights to nature and all of that. So I was just in the context this morning in this group thinking about, if I started thinking about mycelium within change, starting with myself and my family and rippling out, what that would look like in terms of transformation.
Thank you. I see connections to Madeline's invitation there too, right?
Mm.
Similarly, Francois and Grant, you two seem very much on a similar thread. Richard, do you want to speak for a couple minutes about
Oh, sure.
Alive for you?
Mary, that was a nice segue. That's the scale that I've been working on, and I'd say bioregional.
Mm-hmm.
So probably beyond the family and including neighborhood, but to the level of the bioregion, the
Mm-hmm.
community and the local economy.
Mm-hmm.
And the invitation I put out was to, share some practices that actually lead to building multi-stakeholder networks in a local region, focusing specifically on 10 different interest areas. One would be local food, like how do you build a network of stakeholders in a local region to produce more and consume more food within a region. And also another interest area would be like buy local, strengthening your local economy by connecting people that are already involved. So this kind of network, I call it a symbiotic network in the sense that it doesn't compete with anybody's existing brand. That is the leaders that you're bringing together in a region. What it does is expands to a broader network. So it doesn't challenge any interest, but expands people's capacity to work together across the silos that exist between, the political, religious, economic. So it consciously focuses on breaking down silos and bringing together people around common interest areas. So it's a specific process of formation of these kinds of networks. It's not the same as forming a separate organization. It's more of building upon what's already there. So it's more like an organism. 48 seconds. Wow, that was really
No, I
good.
forgot to start the timer. I actually.
Oh my God. So I get some bonus points. No, I'm almost, I think I'm done. So that's the invitation, is that I would like to share the values, the principles, and the network structure to achieve this kind of result in a local bioregion, as well as what leadership is like. And Francois, I'm with you on about leadership. And I think, and I don't know, but I would say, how do we focus on encouraging local bioregional leadership rather than external leadership in terms of scale, which would be national and global. So I really am happy to be here, Ben. Thank you for doing this. And I like this. So anybody that's interested in learning more about that, I'm happy to offer that.
Thank you, Richard. Yeah, I wonder, if any particular invitation you heard calls to you. Obviously, you have, for those of us that have put things on the spreadsheet, you have our emails and you can reach out. But if you want to just drop something in the chat too, to express that, it's really up to each of us extending our invitations to organize more, to see that something happens. And it's fine if you don't. I want to drop into the chat also, for those of you that aren't plugged into Now What yet, that's the connect page on the website where you can join the email list to get regular Now What news updates and to add yourself to the network map or update your presence on there if you were added a long time ago. And yeah, I can linger for a few more minutes for questions, but we are at time, so I wanted to honor that. Did you have a question, or does somebody have a quick question? Link to the form get on the spreadsheet.
I added the thing on the forum, and I also put the web page of Voicing Gaia where you can see the dates for Journey to Now as well on the Now What calendar. But I wanted to say something. There was something about politicians, and so in the future present that we're building the time portal to during the COP26, there are no such things as politicians that as we understand them now, because the governance system is similar to the jury duty in the United States. So it's random people chosen according to their stakeholder position in a conversation, and that's how decisions are being made, and then also bringing the non-human voices into the conversation. And the thing I like about that is that the problem of the politicians is not, we keep thinking that if we'll have better politicians, somehow we make this work, but it doesn't seem to be the solution. And that's a structural problem of politicians being detached from ordinary life because they live in this ecosystem of politics. So it's just changing how we see politics. And of course, it's not something that will happen tomorrow, but it will happen the day after tomorrow because we'll start the journey to now. So we'll bring that future possibility into the present moment.
Beautiful. Yes. There's a lot going on in Now What besides this engagement stream. Uri's being one of the more involved and interesting invitations, really kind of a field trip to something that you were organizing anyway, I think, right? As opposed to something that got organized directly for this edition of Now What. But we do, that's another thing we do, right? Is that if there's other stuff going on.
It's a mycelium in the sense that some seeds or whatever spores of that has happened in connecting with Inga Meta and some Now What with the sonic spring things and the stuff. So there's like, it's a side path, let's say, or a detour. It moves into the unconscious of the collective and then goes up and down.
Yeah,
I've called now. Sorry.
The name of this invitation is Journey to Now, right? So on the calendar here, I'll just quickly show you the Now What calendar too, because some of you may not have looked at this before. So this is, of all the different resources that we have, this might be the most important one to really be plugged in. You can put yourself on the map, you can get on the email list, but if you know how to navigate this calendar, let me just get it into view only mode here. That's really your main ticket into most of what happens. Here we are looking at them. You can change the view. So this is the whole 4 weeks of Now What, starting there and wrapping up on the 19th. Some things may keep on going, but there's, as you can see, a lot going on. Dita, the yellow are what we call field trips. So this is something that was organized by an outside group already, and we're just plugging in and promoting and intertwinkling with it. So Uri's, here's Uri's Journey to Now, which is also in some cases non-English friendly and youth oriented. So we tag things that way. You know, our engagement stream is here. So you can click on any of these. You can RSVP with the sign up button, which isn't required typically. Sometimes often there's a Zoom link, but sometimes you have to register for an event. It depends on what it is, but you can see there's quite a lot to play with. Nobody goes to everything. Would love to have some of you drop into the cafes and the parties that happen, sort of that are plenary. That's a very mycelial space, right, where all the different threads can interconnect. So another way to play that mycelial game. And all this, the link to that can be found at Now What 2021.
Looks awesome. I've got to
Very cool.
sign off. So, but thank you. Nice meeting you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day or night.
Thank
Yes.
It
you.
was nice exchanging some sugars and nutrients.
Yes,
Yeah.
we're doing
Yes.
it now, right here.
Thanks, Ben.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank
Ben.
you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Ben.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben and Tyre and Grant and Richard.
Thank you, everyone.